Hello, everybody. My name's Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I'm your host, and I'm not a dog trainer, but the other people you see here are. And together, they have over 150 years of knowledge and experience in dog training and their dog training profession. And we get together to discuss a topic and talk about it for a little bit and come up with some ideas. And today what I'd like to talk about is, well, let me start it with this. I want to wish everybody a happy National Pet Week. For those who don't know, the AVMA for this week, this is National Pet Week. And what they claim that it is, or what it says on their website, is that it started in 1981 or 82. I got conflicting opinions on that. But it's to foster responsible pet ownership, recognize the human-animal bond, and increase public awareness of veterinary medicine. And what I would like to discuss today is that first part. I'd like to discuss fostering responsible pet ownership. And I'd like to know what you as dog trainers think that means. And I'm just going to throw that topic out there. And whoever wants to start can start. Or I'll pick somebody.
Or not.
Go ahead.
I'll chime in. And for people watching, this whole thing started, and Bonnie and Joel would send us a topic a few days before we would shoot this. So the great thing about this now is the past couple of weeks, Joel has been springing this topic on us, which is really good because we don't really edit this, and although this is not live, for all intents and purposes, you're getting our first thoughts as these topics arise. So I think that adds a little bit, offers some genuine feedback and what goes on through our minds. So anytime I hear something like responsible pet ownership, a lot of things go through my mind. Obviously, being involved in rescue, owner compliance when working with a pet professional, whether it's a trainer or a veterinarian, etc. But pet owner responsibility is extremely near and dear to my heart, especially because I'm a huge pit bull lover. And, so much stuff goes through my mind. But, people ask me what the number one factor is for responsible pet ownership. And obviously that's a loaded question because there are many facets of responsibility. But I try to simplify things, and it almost seems so simple, my answer to them, and that is common sense. And frankly, it's a lost art in our society, not just with dog training. We sometimes, our expectations are different than what our common sense might dictate. We can have a 3 or 4 year old dog that is just amazing off leash in our big old country backyard. And Steve talks about this a lot as far as training and introducing the dogs and training dogs in various environments to promote reliability. I say the same thing to my clients as well. Mm-hmm. So people will often say, oh, my dog ran away at the state park and I tried calling, but he wouldn't come back. And it totally blew my mind because in my yard, out in Boonville, where there's no sounds but birds chirping, my dog always comes when called. Mm-hmm. Well, how much work did you do in a state park with a gazillion kids and animals running around and kites flying and all, ad infinitum? And that's, some people say, well, that's not really common sense. Well, yeah, it is. Who in their right mind would let a dog off leash in an environment that they've never been in before? And those are just something, that's just one thing that pops into my head. Mm-hmm. The other facet of it is knowing what your local laws are. I mean, it's really simple. You don't need to be an animal control officer or a dog trainer or a veterinarian to know what your local leash laws are. You don't need to know a lot about dog behavior or dog body language if you're taking your dog to the dog park and something seems a little off with the dogs that are in there. Like, just trust your common sense. Don't go in the dog park if it seems a little off. And again, I won't get into dog parks because that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But, common sense, for some reason, Maybe it's because we humanize them a little more. I don't know, but just we say it all the time. A lot of people have. Nobody speak. We have to speak up for our animals. We have to be their ambassadors. We have to be their guardians. We have to be their champions. And we have to make sure that when in doubt, this is what I tell my clients and rescue people and friends of mine and fosters and adopters. It is our responsibility, first and foremost, to always, not sometimes, not when it's convenient for us, always put our animals in a position to succeed. I'll hand it off to someone else. I'm sure we'll chat about this a little further. So,
in my puppy kindergarten, I cover a little bit of responsible dog ownership. What I go over with people because, and as you said, Jeff, common sense, but common sense requires the knowledge. And I think there's a lot of myths around dogs, especially for first time or new dog owners, and people don't realize a lot of things. So I cover responsible dog ownerships. Number one, see to the dog's physical needs. Taking care of the animal, vet visits, grooming. Grooming is important. You got to clip their nails. If you let their nails grow too long, it becomes uncomfortable, painful for the animal. Number two is, proper mental enrichment, making sure that the animal has enough in its life, whether it's games, training, walks, interaction with other animals, interaction with other people, but there should be plenty of mental enrichment. Do not allow, and this I really emphasize, do not allow your dog to encroach on other dogs or people. Don't assume that all dogs are friendly. Do not, when out walking, do not let your dog drag you over to every dog they see. In fact, the first thing I try to teach is just let dogs pass you by. You don't need to have on-leash greetings. There are lots of people out there just wanting to walk their dog, and their dogs are not great around other dogs. Sure. So don't make those assumptions. Ask first, or just avoid altogether. And when people come to your house, sorry, I'm getting attacked by my curtains here.
That's all right.
When people come to your home, don't allow your dog to jump all over people. To me, that's responsible dog ownership, is you're not allowing your dog to intimidate or encroach on other people or other dogs, as I said. And most important, well, maybe not most important, it's all important, but pick up after your dog. Do not leave it. Never, ever, for anyone. Dogs are banned from so many areas because of people like that. They don't pick up after their dog. Keep bags with you and pick up. Gosh darn it. I hate that. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Okay.
I would agree with Helen. That's the same thing with Jeff saying, common sense type thing, But just to add to what Jeff and Helen was saying, and this goes to some cases I've been working on recently, where I had a couple, they have 2 dogs, and they keep them confined in 2 separate crates for 13 hours a day, while 3 days a week they're out working. And I really just want to really just shake them and say, hey, what's going on here? But you have to be kind of calm, realize, and I can tell they're not mean any harm. They mean goodwill, and they just don't know any better. So I basically explained to them, that's one of the reasons why your dog is barking right there. That's the hot button right there. Out of all the issues that they're having with their dog, going to the bathroom in the house and so forth, that's a big thing. And responsibility really comes down to, like you're saying, enrichment, mental stimulation, exercise. And I said, how would you feel if you were in a small room looking at 4 walls the whole day? I mean, it's no different for them.
That was my life in corporate America.
And that's basically what it comes down to. Unless you want to throw some classical music on or something like that, it might help a little bit, but you're still, you're singing in a room that's just with nothing to stimulate you. So I think that's, that's a big thing. The other thing I would think the exercise, getting back to the exercise, if you're just sitting there and playing around for 5-10 minutes, that's not adequate. And it also depends on the breed. It's one thing to go get a herding breed, and you're going to be sitting around giving the dog not much exercise, not much outlet, unless you're in a small apartment and you're not walking the dog, and you're wondering why it's hurting you or pushing you around or whatever it is. That's a good reason. That's a good reason. You got to figure out, based on the breed, based on the age of the dog as well. Some dogs, I have a lot of people, they get puppies, and they're an elderly couple. I've worked with a lot of elderly couples that have puppies, and they're just overwhelmed. And that puppy is just too much for a couple like that. They may be looking at a dog that's middle age or something like that. So a lot of times it has to do with the lifestyle of the people. If it's an active family, then they could get something that has a little more a dog that's more active, like a golden retriever or something like that. So
my question to you, David, as a dog trainer, is what do you do with that? What do you do when you find yourself confronted with a situation where, due to the circumstances, the owner isn't necessarily being the most responsible?
Yeah. So for this case that I had this past week, for instance, I explained to them. I said, take them out of the crate. When I set up for them, I said they had 3 bedrooms in the back area off the kitchen, and the dog was confined to that back room in the 2 crates. The 2 dogs were back in there. So I said, listen, can we put the gate that you have up here, just leave it the way as is. You have one that's in the hallway that goes into the 3 bedrooms. Then they had another gate that went into the dining room area. I said, just keep it as is. All you have to do is just close those doors off. Don't let the dogs have access to the bedrooms. And that's a starting point. That's a starting point. And I also suggest, listen, is there a way you could, and this wasn't adequate for them, but I gave them options. There's doggy daycare, and these are, adult dogs. I'm not talking about little young puppies that don't have the vaccination and so forth.
Right.
So there's doggy daycare. Maybe you could take the dogs periodically or for a little bit of time to work on occasion. And some people are against that. And I said, listen, you'd be surprised. Some bosses and some companies might be more willing than you think they are to accommodate something like that.
So are you saying that you may not be able to fix the whole thing, but you can at least help with a little of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the dog will be in a better situation at this point. Let's put it that way. It'll definitely be in a better situation. So, and sometimes you're beating a dead horse, unfortunately. What do you do? I mean, you call the authorities on them. It's the dog's got a roof over its head, it's being fed.
Right.
But it's missing the quality of life is not the greatest. It's better than being on the streets, of course, but then it just comes down to, personal preference or what, and that's the other thing I get too is, oh, my neighbors have do it, or my friend does it, that the dog doesn't have any problem with the dog's left for 13 hours a day. Yeah, they have the webcam, and they say the dog sleeps all day.
Right.
Well, that might be the case, but is the dog really happy? Maybe it's just really holding its true feelings in. It's you can't read the dog's mind, but I mean, would you want to sleep all day? Is that a life to have? Again, it's better than the streets, but whatever it might be, or
right.
But,
Okay.
I guess that's my piece that I can think of for now. But
okay.
What do you think,
Bonnie?
Bob?
Well, I was thinking something to what David said. I think an adult dog can sleep all day, but the owner needs to get up in the morning an hour early, get that dog exercised, do some training with it, something to stimulate the dog, leave it with some, a stuffed Kong or something good. And then when they come home, they can't go out after work for 2 hours of cocktails. They do have to come home and get that dog out, get it exercised, spend time with the dog, because they are social pack animals, and they want to be with people, usually, if there's a good relationship with the dog and the owner. So,
oh, absolutely.
But I also was thinking back to when I was young. I think some people, some young people get dogs and they really love dogs and want a dog, but they get a puppy. They are working 8 to 6 or even longer, and they don't realize what that dog's quality of life's going to be.
Yeah.
And they just don't know, and it's the wrong choice at the wrong time for them, even though they're dog lovers. And the dog may be, they had a family dog, and then they're living alone in a big city, and they want some company. And I say, thank God for dog trainers who can come in and say, like David was saying, these are some suggestions to help you out. Can you get a neighbor to walk the dog? Can you afford a dog walker? This may help your dog live a better life with you and not be chewing up your house or whatever the issues are. So, I'm thank God for dog trainers, and I think we do need to have compassion, though it's really hard when we know that a dog's quality of life is not the greatest. Just like David was saying. And
yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think if we can educate the public even more on this subject, maybe the people, if they knew all these things we're talking about right now, they would think twice, like, hey, maybe this is not right, because we're going to have this lifestyle. It's not going to change, or it's going to change. It's not going to be changed enough. The dog's quality of life is going to suffer. Maybe we shouldn't get a dog, or maybe an older dog or this type of breed of dog might be more suitable to our lifestyle and so forth. Maybe an older dog doesn't require as much exercise and mental stimulation, whatever it might be. So then it's adequate,
Yeah, you're right, David. And that's part of responsible dog ownership too, is you said it before, choosing the right dog for your lifestyle. But the problem is most of the time, they don't reach out to us until after they already have the dog.
That's just it. Yeah, absolutely.
And also there's a lot of promotion on TV about rescuing dogs and helping dogs and playing on your heartstrings. So that maybe some different kind of advertisement needs to be done about responsible dog ownership. I don't think there's enough of that.
Yeah, I think there's minimum requirements, and there's things that are like in that gray area, I guess you can call it. It's one of those, it depends. It's not necessarily a right or wrong per se. It's just kind of.
Steve, you haven't said much.
Well, I guess it's complicated. I guess I should say thank God for cats.
Isn't that always your go-to?
Yeah, it is. I mean, really, cats are nice. Really. I mean, cats can take you or leave you. So when you leave, they're like, see you, have a nice day. And then they bother you when you get home and stuff. But, they tolerate that aloneness a lot better than dogs. Dogs don't tolerate it very well.
Yeah.
I mean, old dogs, young dogs, they like to have company if they can. The ones that sleep, terrific, if it works for them. But if you have something to say first, you want to tell people. I mean, what about the kid thing? I mean, so Bonnie says, young people, they get a dog because they don't realize they're going to work. But what about the people who are not so young? Maybe they're young couples and they now have children and they want to get a dog for the kids, like it's Xbox, Yeah. But it's not. It's not. I mean, and they don't realize, and they have expectations that are sometimes like unbelievable. When I was a vet tech, this kid came in with his dog once. And I'm in the exam room, and the doctor examines the dog. The dog's got problems. So he says to the kid, we've got to do some things. Got to take some x-rays, get some lab work. The kid says, well, how much is that going to cost? This kid must have been like 10.
Wow.
He walked to the animal hospital with the dog on a leash. How much is that going to cost? And the doctor says, don't worry about it. I'll talk to your parents. And the kid says, the dog is my responsibility. My parents told me that if I was going to get a dog, I was going to be responsible for the cost of this dog. This kid's like 10.
I love that kid.
But he couldn't possibly do that. He's a kid. He doesn't have to do, I mean, that was like an unfair thing. And I think I shared the one where a guy looks at me, he's got a kid in a lab, and he's like, when will my kid be able to walk to the lab? And I said, when he's 40. So, it's unbelievable. They don't know. I mean, the AVMA did a study years ago saying that they find that the magic number for kids to be somewhat successful with some responsibility is 12 years old. 12 and up. They even split up the younger group, like infant to 8 and 9 to 11, this kind of thing, to see if a little bit older kids were more successful. And the answer was no. 12 is the magic number. Right. I find that pretty interesting. And then there are 40-year-olds that aren't responsible for their pets. I mean, it's the way it is. I mean, my dad was not a dog guy at all. I mean, he was not a dog guy. And I remember him waking me up one Saturday morning to walk my dog. And I said, Dad, it's Saturday. I'd like to sleep a little later. And he goes, okay, sleep as late as you like, but don't go to the bathroom yourself until after you've walked your dog. I learned that was a hell of a lesson. Do not go to the bathroom yourself until after you've walked your dog. And don't feed yourself unless you've fed your dog first. This was from a guy who didn't like dogs, but he felt like there was some bigger picture here, that this is an important thing. And I grew up thinking that's an important thing. And to this very day, that's how I feel about it. I mean, I might have to stop at the bathroom myself because my dogs are trained better than I am. But, I still, when it comes to feeding and all, I mean, it's in my mind. I grew up like that. Sleep as late as you want. Just don't go to the bathroom until after you've walked your dog. It was a great lesson. So I try to share this with people, or when they ask for things. I mean, we have to all make choices about what the relationship we have with the dogs really are, because some people feel differently about them than others. I mean, right? I mean, I don't know about how some of the working dogs are really handled. I mean, I feel for every dog that's out on the tether. I mean, there are dogs that chain out. Yeah. You ask the people, we've got a case here in this county where a husky that's chained out 24/7. It's got a doghouse. It never goes in. When the people were queried, they said, well, the dog, it doesn't behave inside, so we can't keep it in. So, okay, fine. You got to keep it out? Are you going to spend any time with this dog at all? So, interestingly, I saw one of the humane officers this weekend, and I asked him about that case. I said, what about that husky that's chained up? And he said, we visited. I said, and the dog's well fed. The dog's got good veterinary care. The dog has water. And I'm like, I know. So does this cop. It's not enough. Right. But there's seemingly no law to protect this dog. You'd have to appeal to the owners. Like, look, this dog could have a better life somewhere else. Why would you keep him out there like he's a garden tool? I mean, it's really not right. It's just not. But so there's a lot. I mean, we're not helping people to make good choices, at least in terms of law. I mean, we have to have a license and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people don't really know what real veterinary care costs or food. I mean, if you really want to be a responsible pet owner, you've got to know all the elements. Because of what we do, we tend to think about emotional and mental enrichment, but there's a huge picture. And all these things, the breed type, the age. I mean, if you want to wait for your lab to get arthritis, I'm sure it'll calm down and everything will be fine. You don't have to worry about throwing the ball around. But if you can't afford daycare and you work a lot of hours, then a cat is a very pleasant animal. It's trainable, it'll like you. I mean, right. And fish, I got to tell you, you can train fish. Right? I mean, we still have a job, I think, no matter what. I mean, we'll work it out for ourselves. But I think all of us would give up our profession if the general public took better care all around of their pets, right? If we could trade, right? Everybody does the right thing because you have to maybe take a test. You got to read the operator's manual before you're allowed to get one. You know, once it, right? That would change things, because a lot of people then would be like, wow, didn't know you couldn't make a left turn over the double yellow line. You know, I mean, yeah, well, you know, there's certain things you need to know about, like if you're going to get a giant dog and you're not strong, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, and then I feel for the dogs, you know, because what's the dog going to do? Really, at the end of the day, these dogs are looking around like, geez, can't believe I moved in here. You know? Yeah. Wasn't their choice. They don't get to pick us. Well, sometimes they do, but most of the time we're picking them, and we don't always pick well, right, David? I mean, it's a breed thing. It's important. If you get a pug, you're not going to have to go from 5-mile runs every night. You know, right? A cat is very nice. Look, you folks out there, cats are lovely. And call anybody over here to help you train your cat, because these people have skills and knowledge. All right,
reptiles too.
And reptiles, please.
I'm listening to Steve and also David and Helen, and a couple of things popped into my head, and the best case scenario is someone comes to us and says, hey, I'm thinking about getting a dog. That's like the best case scenario, because that's a really good position for the owner and for us to be in, as far as helping guide them along the way. But like Helen said, we're always called after the fact, or as rescuers, we find out about a situation after the fact. The chained dog. You know why, Steve, they didn't get rid of the chained dog? Because they love him. Damn, I'm glad I'm not loved by those people. Let me tell you, here's what really, was popping into my head is, granted, some people get into it, they need help, they seek help, and that's that, right? And I think having some level of compassion for people who are overwhelmed by whether it's puppyhood or, the lifestyle of the dog they choose. I get all that. And I'm pretty sure we're all pretty good at being, offering compassion and educating people on the fly, after they get the dog. But at some point, we need to start raising the bar for owners. It's that simple. I'm sorry. People will shop for a new car for months on end. They'll go out and get a dog one afternoon.
Yeah.
They'll try on.
That Jeff is
very true.
They'll try on 8 pairs of jeans, and maybe they won't buy one because they're not all that crazy about it. And they'll go somewhere else to get, clothing that suits them. We allocate so much time to things that, that are important to us. Why not with dogs? Right? I'm sorry, granted, there are the cases, people need our help. We're here to help. That's great. But after a while, we got to start raising the bar. There's got to be some level of accountability out there. I mean, I don't know if there's a dog in the yard, right? That's the thing is, dogs are held to higher standards than humans. I mean, it's really that simple. I mean, and granted, I have friendly dogs, right? But I have one dog. If a stranger walked in my yard, man, I'd feel sorry for him, right? And guess what? My dog would get in trouble. Right? If someone broke into my house and I defended myself, I'd be a friggin' hero. How is that sane? Yeah. I'm sorry, I get a little emotional.
That's fine.
Especially because it just happened recently, and I mean, we humans so lack accountability, it's laughable, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. And for any pet owners who are watching, any problem you have, there is a solution, right? And I'm offering this to you because we understand what it's like to be overwhelmed, right? We understand. We've been doing this a long time. We've dealt with families of all demographics, right? So there's always someone out there that could help you find a solution to your problem, right? And if time is your problem, don't even get me started, because you know how I feel about time, right? The average person watches 3 or 4 hours of TV a day. Get up off your ass and walk your damn dog. Sorry.
Sounds good.
I teach couch potato training for the people who like to watch a lot of TV.
But that doesn't work with all dogs, does it, Ellen?
Well, there's ways to tweak.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
So I think that that's a good place to leave this. And as always, I want to thank you all.
Here's a good stuff.
On a high note.
Yeah, I can see the steam coming out of your ears, Jeff. Don't worry about it. So, like I said, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank everybody for watching. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.
See you, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.